Hello, Miss Larrabee here. Glad to see you again for another art video. I am so excited about this lesson. I have been excited about this lesson since the very first day of school this year. Excited to when we came to the point in the year that we could do this. It's going to combine some of our drawing skills as well as some things that we've learned about color this year. And I think you guys are going to really like the results too. It's kind of fun to see what it looks like. It makes a very striking picture as well. So to start off with, you're just going to need a pencil, an eraser, and a piece of paper. Today, if you have a blank piece of paper, that would work best, but this could totally be done on notebook paper too. So whatever paper you have is fine. And you're going to need a citrus fruit. I have a lemon. If you have a lime, that works. An orange would be fine. If you don't have a citrus fruit, then apple, a cucumber, avocado, whatever you have will work out just fine. You're going to hear me refer to lemon a lot, but whatever you have works. So just substitute the word lemon with what you have at home. I cut it together. I was trying to figure out how it fit back together, but this was one lemon. And I cut it down the middle this way to get a cross section. So if you have an apple, you're going to want to cut it so that you can see the stem and the seeds in the middle. Same for the avocado, you're going to want to cut it down the center. Some way to get a cross section of your fruit. And we're not going to do anything with it to mess it up, so you'll totally be able to eat it later. This is one of those lessons where it smells really good too with the lemon. So citrus or some kind of fruit or vegetable, a pencil and an eraser and a piece of paper. And here's kind of what it's going to look like at the end. We'll talk about our coloring supplies. If you want to gather them now, it's your choice. Some kind of thing to add color. You can still do the drawing part. If you don't have the coloring part, that's fine. But you can use pastels, crayons, colored pencils, watercolor. We'll talk about all of those after we do our drawing. But let's start first with our drawing. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a minute. But one of the things that we're going to look at is drawing, right? We're going to look at texture and we're going to look at color and talk just a tiny bit about color theory. So here's some examples of where we're going to go with it. Notice that I made these pieces of lemon huge and they're not necessarily colored realistically either, which will be a fun part. We'll talk about that some more. And these are with the different supplies, watercolor, just so you know where we're going. Let's start by drawing together. Here's my paper. Grab my pencil. I'm going to grab my lemon to look at again too. Just take a minute and let's observe our lemon slice. These are just prolific right now. They're everywhere, right? If you don't have a lemon tree, you quite possibly know someone else who does. And if it's anything like our neighborhood, I have lemons on my doorstep at least twice a week, which is awesome. We've made lemonade, we've used it, we made lemon chicken. It's so neat this time of year. So it's one of those things that can be in our home and we can see it a lot, but not necessarily really look at it. So part of this lesson is just observation. Take a minute and just look at this cross section of lemon and notice the different parts. So radial symmetry, my 5th graders worked on that this year. It means symmetry or the same, but it's around a radius or a circle. So there's a center part and usually there would be seeds. I cut 2 lemons open and neither one did I catch the seeds in, but this might be where you would see the seeds. If you have an apple, you're probably looking at the seeds too, even cucumber. And then it has these sections and then the rind is on the outside. Take a moment and look what's larger, what's a bigger part. These sections have kind of thin lines, but the rind is pretty thick. Not only does it have rind, but it's kind of in 2 parts. There's this light part, this whitish part that goes around here, and then it has this brighter yellow on the very, very outside. And then inside here are all these little juice packets. It's just chocked full of them, right? And I really like how the light hits them and you can see the brightness of them on the sides. Texture is really neat. The light reflects off the juice packets a little differently than it does off the outside edge of the lemon. So now that we've observed all that, let's take a minute and talk about composition on our paper. we are going to draw big. We're going to enlarge this. We're going to enlarge it so much because we want to see all this amazing texture in it. We're going to enlarge it so much that it is going to go off the edge of our paper. So start at the top. You guys can work along with me today. And let's see, our main shape is a circle. So I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to draw a little darker just because I want you to be able to see, okay? But you might want to draw lighter because some of these lines will need to be erased. But I want to make sure you guys can see. So it's going off the edge of my paper at the top, off the edge of my paper at the side. Yours could go a different direction, but we're probably only getting about 1/4 of the lemon on here. So we have the big arch circle. And then the center is going to be somewhere, let me scoop my paper down. The center is going to be somewhere over here, right? So we've taken just this tiny piece of our orange and we're drawing that part. And then let's go ahead, now that we have the outside and the inside placement done, we know where we can start adding these lines for the different sections. So I'm going to just sketch in a few lines. I'm going to decide now, how many of these sections can I see? We could use our rule of odds. 3 would be a pretty pleasing number. We talked about that in a different video, right? And now we're going to look at how these all connect. We have our placement, and now we're going to start adding our details. So my first thing that I see is I see that the rind goes out here, but then there's an inside edge to it as well. So I'm going to sketch that in first. I actually just got lemon on my paper. I'm going to sketch this part in first. It's not even. It kind of curves around. Looks like it curves a little on the inside. The more of these details that you see, the more realistic your lemon's going to look. So I noticed that it kind of curves out as it gets away from the sections a little bit. You might want to do that too. And then it curves in to these sections. And these are pretty straight in this one. I know one of my other lemons that I was using, they were pretty wavy in it, so it's just neat to see what you get when you cut it open. They kind of taper, they're almost the same width from this end to this end, taper just a little. So I'm just curving in these parts. Can kind of start to see it form. This one's going to go off the edge of the paper, which is great. It just creates interest. So I know that it would curve and continue there. Take your eraser, take care of the lines that you don't need now. I know this shakes the camera when I erase. Sorry about that. Okay, so we kind of got our placement. We've added some detail. This center isn't a perfect circle. It's a lumpy circle. So go ahead and add a little bit of a shape to your center. Decide how these edges, these sections are going to bump into it. I'm going to erase my original placement lines. And even this part right here, there's a little bit of a darker section in here. I think that would be interesting to see. So I'm just deciding its shape is kind of like a triad. It has 3 edges. I didn't draw it super much like a triad, but there we go. All right, so we have our sections, we have our rind, we have our center. I don't have a seed, but I'm going to add a seed right here because I know that some of them do have seeds. All right, so we have all of our basics in here, and I would even say out here, I would go back and make this line a little bit imperfect because that is true to form, right? If we enlarge this, this is not a completely round. It goes in and out, and I want to mirror that in my artwork as well. We're drawing realistically. We may not color it realistically. That's kind of fun. All right, so we have our placement down. I'm sure you guys have done a beautiful job. We have the issue of all of these little seed packets. This is where some texture comes into play. We want to give the idea of all of this that we see. But here's a neat thing in art. We just need to give the suggestion of it. You do not, even in realistic drawing, you do not have to draw every single one of these little seed pouches. So here's what it might look like. I like to take a section. You might choose to do this a little differently, but I'm going to do it very lightly. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it shows up okay. I'm going to show what it looks like as they bump into each other. So look at the shape of these. I'm getting it a little closer just so I can see. They're oval-ish, kind of water droplet shaped. I'm just going to add a few of these together. I don't need to draw all of them all over. They're even kind of fun to draw. Don't worry about getting it exact. If you like to draw exactly what you see, maybe take one, kind of get the shape like that one looks long on one side and curved on the other. And that is all you have to do. Add a few of these shapes in just so you get the idea. Scatter them around, but put them in groups. So I have several right here together instead of just having one here and one here. Those start to look like seeds, right? We want to differentiate between the seed. So I'm going to put a group of them together because part of what's so impactful about this is all these bumping into each other. So we want to show that in our artwork. I'm going to add a few more up here. These are just guides for us. When we color it in just a moment, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get that look. But we want to have a few placed so we have a starting point. Ooh, there's a really long one. All right. So we've done our drawing. We've added a little detail. Now we get to talk about color.